Thank you. Please be seated. Your Excellency, the Executive Governor of Edo State, Comrade Adams Ashomole, Your Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Ekiti State, Professor Madupe Adelebu, the Chairman of the Senate Committee on Education, Senator Uche Chukwumereje, Honorable Ministers, Permanent Secretaries, the Chairman of the Board of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, and the Director General, and other members of the board, members of the Diplomatic Corps, our development partners and captains of industries. I would like to specially welcome Mr. Ajib Onel for your time to be with us today. Participants and discussants, distinguished invited guests, our teachers and our students and children, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I will start my closing remark by extending the sincere greetings and felicitations of Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and to say ordinarily for the inspirational plenary sessions this morning, and particularly that by our children, I would have just say thank you and announce the closure of this summit. But I must say that this session has made me more proud, and proud that we are really definitely having one Nigeria, a Nigeria that will be one of the most developed nations, a Nigeria that will be of one people. Mr. President said it only a few days ago when inaugurating the national conference, that at this period that we have just witnessed our first centenary, and we are now going into the second centenary period for this nation. It is time for us to have our children, the young ones, feeling this proud position that we should all be Nigerians. We should forget the issue of tribalism, regionalism, and that we are one Nigeria, we are one people, and we are one country that will be one of the most developed countries in this world in the very near future. But then I have written something already, so you bear with me. I'll just read that and say that I am highly delighted to be at this closing ceremony of the 20th Nigerian Economic Summit. I am particularly happy with the high level of participation and quality of deliberations at this presidential policy dialogue and the closing plenary session. I am also informed that the tempo of the deliberation was sustained throughout other plenaries and design workshop sessions which took place at this summit in the last 3 days. Let me also express the appreciation of the government to the organizers of this event, especially the Joint Planning Committee consisting of public and private sector representatives under the joint supervision of the Nigeria Economic Summit Group and the National Planning Commission, working closely with the Federal Ministry of Education. I believe that similar excellent arrangements will surface during subsequent summits. I'm informed that the past 3 days have been very productive as participants have been actively engaged in discussions and finding solutions toward refocusing the country's educational system. Areas of attention include access and quality, issues of infrastructure, teacher quality, curriculum, development, funding, planning, etc. And this is consistent with the summit theme, which is transforming education through partnership for global competitiveness. It is also reassuring to note that some members of the National Assembly, state governors, honorable ministers, permanent secretaries, vice chancellors, directors general of parastatals, and directors of the federal and states, ministries, departments, and agencies, principals and teachers of primary and secondary schools, captains of industries, representatives of the civil society organizations, development partners, as well as our dear children and pupils who are the leaders of tomorrow have participated actively in this year's summit. This is an indication that all stakeholders are committed to working closely with the three ties of government in revitalizing the educational system of our country. It is a known fact that the foundation of all successful modern nation states is a well-articulated educational system which engender in society a modern mindset and a culture of learning that produces the right sets of functional skills and values that propel people to achieve their highest potentials. It is in this context the government is committed to addressing the deficiencies of Nigeria's education sector. This is achieved through the intervention of both public and private sector stakeholders to facilitate Nigeria's preparation towards attaining its transformation agenda and the Vision 2020 aspirations. With an average GDP growth rate of about 7% between 2011 and 2012, and about 6.87% in 2013, the prospects for Nigeria are huge in the immediate and near future. Our administration remains committed to the transformation of the education sector. Several policy initiatives are being implemented to facilitate and improve adult literacy and school enrollment at all levels of our educational institutions. We intend to develop a skilled workforce which will be able to drive the development of the Nigerian economy, drive change and innovation, and ensure that Nigeria attains her rightful place in the community of nations. This is consistent with our aspiration of becoming one of the 20 largest economies in the world by the year 2020. I am pleased to note that the report of this year's summit has captured key issues, especially in the areas of building core competencies and value system, bridging education gap, development of credible governance structure, financing, introduction of early child care education system, deepening partnership with the private sector, and improving skills and welfare of teachers, and indeed, even learning the Chinese language. Because Jim and all has showed us that in the next period, China will be number one as against the present situation. So I think it is a recommendation in the right direction. Let me assure you that we have been addressing most of the issues raised in this summit. In particular, the education sector is currently implementing various strategic reforms using instrumentality of the 4-year education system's strategic plan in ensuring effective, quality delivery of educational service in Nigeria. Government acknowledges the role of the technical, vocational, and educational training, TVET, which plays by impacting knowledge and skills to the citizens on the platform of cutting-edge technology. This is to enable them contribute meaningfully to the development of other sectors of the economy. In this regard, several strategies have been put in place to further the role of the TVET, both in the formal and informal sectors of development and growth. Some of these include capacity building for the industrial training funds, rehabilitation of laboratories and workspaces in colleges and tertiary institutions. There has also been a sustained effort by the federal and state governments and the private sector in achieving complete access to education at all levels and bridging gaps in basic and post-basic education. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is clear that the task of transforming the educational sector is enormous, and therefore all hands must be on deck to achieve this success. I urge the leadership of the states, the private sector, civil society organizations, development partners, and parents to join hands with the government in actualizing this noble objective. I am glad to participate in the closing plenary, as well as receive the presentation of the summit's report. It is heartwarming to note that listening is key to productive dialogue. Such dialogue with the private sector, principals, teachers, including key members of the business community and education sector experts, is key to deepening and broadening the implementation of the strategic plan for the development of education sector in particular, and the wider transformation agenda in general. I therefore assure all participants, including members of the business community, the principals, the teachers, and the children, that we have taken note of the key issues and recommendations made by the summit. Let me assure you that the report of this summit will receive adequate attention by government. Once again, I congratulate you all for being part of this summit and for your very useful contributions. It is now my pleasure to declare the 20th Nigerian Economic Summit closed. I thank you all.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency.